And of course, David, we need to talk about Richard's bass players, and you have had some remarkable players: Pat Donaldson, David Pegg, of course, who you've done many records with. Bruce Lynch, who did the original bass part on She Twists the Knife Again. Don't forget that. And Jerry, how about working? Tell me about working with Elvis's bass player. I mean, You, Me, Us, Mirror Blue, Rumor and Sigh, Amnesia, Daring Adventures. He did quite a few records with you.
Yeah, he was. He's a wonderful player. He was Mitchell Froome's go-to bass player, and for good reason. If people don't know Jerry, he was a very accomplished session player.
Absolutely,
from the LA session scene. In the '60s, played on things like Along Comes Mary,
the Association,
by the Association.
Yeah,
played on the Holy Mackerel album, which is a wonderful album, a bit obscure, and was in Elvis Presley's band. He kind of swapped out with
Norbert Putnam was it?
Norbert Putnam.
No, it was the other one. Emery Gordy swapped out with
Emery Gordy, of course, another guy.
So he'd be in for a few years, then Emery would do it for a few years, and they go backwards and forwards. But Jerry's just great. I mean, a really interesting, very creative player. He's one of those bass players that when the track's finished, you're humming the bass line. Forget the melody. The thing that catches your ear is the bass line. He was that good and that interesting. Would use different basses for different effects. He played down electro sometimes, but play the Fender sometimes. And just a great guy, and a few good Elvis stories, here and there.
I would think so,
yeah. And he lives in Scotland now. I haven't seen him for a few years, but I think he married some Scottish heiress, as one does.
As one does. Good work if you can get it, yeah. And then, of course, your long relationship with Danny Thompson.
Yeah, Danny's just kind of a unique acoustic bass player. Extraordinary player. I mean, he's played with so many different people on so many different records in so many different styles. He started out really as a kind of a bebop player, playing with probably the UK's top bebop musician at that time, Tubby Hayes, in the Tubby Hayes Quartet. But he also played with people like Josh White, the old blues guys. Played with people like David Sylvian, Kate Bush on Kate Bush records.
He has thousands of record credits. He's almost like Ron Carter is here. We spoke to Ron the other day, and Danny's resume is incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. And of course, he was in Pentangle, which were a very sort of groundbreaking, kind of folk / jazz band, I suppose you'd say, with Bert Jansch and John Ramborn, etc. And probably, missed his career as a stand-up comedian. I mean, Danny's one of the funniest people on the planet, absolutely hilarious. And kind of an outrageous personality, larger than life, heart the size of a planet, and just incredible stories. His life has just been fascinating.
You have to get a hold of him, David.
Yeah, we will have to try.
You should. He'd be great to interview. And I'll ask him about throwing Roy Harper off the ferry.
Oh,
see if he remembers that one. Yeah.
Does Roy Harper know how to swim? Well, he must.
No, he didn't.
There you go. And,
but it happened. It was an incident that happened.
Were you there? Did you witness it?
No, I wasn't there. It was Pentangle, on their way to a festival, I think in Scandinavia somewhere, where you often have to take a lot of ferries, and Roy Harper was kind of doing the same trip, and I think Roy must have been pontificating a bit about his own genius, and Danny said, well, if you don't shut up, you're going over the side. And Roy must have continued it because Denny said, "All right, that's it." And he chucked him off the ferry.
Well,
I think as Roy is hitting the water, he said, "I can't swim." and I believe Denny said, "Well, you should have thought of that first, shouldn't you?"
that may actually be our calling card to get him.
Yes.
Could be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why would you talk bass with Danny Thompson? Just talk about that. And then, interestingly, he used Willie Weeks on First Light with Andy Newmark and Neil Larson. What prompted you to get Willie and those guys on the record?
Well, it kind of came as a package. I was doing a record. I was playing in the rhythm section behind a British singer called Julie Covington, who was kind of singer-actress, who had a big hit with Don't Cry for Me Argentina. Had a big hit in the UK with that tune from Evita. And she's also on primetime TV in this kind of sitcom called Rock Follies. And so I was drafted into the rhythm section. So it's me and Willie Weeks and Neil Larson on keyboards and Andrew Newmark on drums.
Right.
And it seems to be going well, and we seem to hang together quite well as a rhythm section. So Joe Boyd said, "Can you guys stay another week, and we'll do Richard's record?" So that's really how it happened. It wasn't like I said, I have to have Willie Weeks. It was like the package. But he's a fantastic player. I mean, probably a bit too funky, really, for my music. But and it was sort of a bit disco in those days. So the record sounds a little bit disco. But it was fun to work with those guys. It was great. Andy Newmark said, when I spoke to him on the phone, he said, "You know the number you just dialed?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's the fee."
Well, those guys were the top
they
LA
were,
guys.
They were great players. And
hopefully the first number wasn't 9.
So, sorry, say again?
Hopefully the first number wasn't a 9.
Yeah, I don't think it was, but no, good point.
And then, of course, Taras has played on many of your records as well. I think he was on, he's on Dreamatic. He's on lots of your records.
Tressa, wonderful player. Tressa, all about feel.
Okay.
And with Michael Jerome as the drummer, I just love the feel of those two guys together. It's just fantastic. Obviously, I'm very happy because they've been in my band now for 15 years plus, and I've used them on every record I can. So Tressa used to play with Lucinda Williams, and I used to play with Dwight Yoakam. So he came more from a kind of country end of things, but he can play anything. It's just a great player.
Now I know you read the Burt Wheaton book, right? That was your back in the day, right? What was it? Play guitar in a day.
Play in a day. Everybody read that book.
Okay.
But if you asked, Jimmy Page or something, Eric Clapton, all these people, how did you get started? They'd say, play in a day. And you could play in a day. This is a very clever little book. That really kind of encouraged you in small steps and gave you confidence. And you could actually achieve, like in a day, you could achieve in a week, like you're halfway through the thing, and probably in a month you finish that and you've moved on to something else. You're already in the charts by the time you finish the book. It's and it was written by this really kind of square, hokey guy, Burt Wheaton, who was just is on variety shows, but playing the guitar, just the squarest guy you can imagine.
Well, he's so square, he's cool, because I see he's parodied on a lot of British television.
Oh, is he? Yeah, well, he deserves it. Yeah.
But another topic David and I get into is music education. David studied at Berkeley. I went to University of Miami. Are you the type of band leader that kind of gives his rhythm section specific directions, or do you just hire guys because, like you said, their feel and what they bring to the table?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. I think I tend to send demos out to the band. and then they come back, you know, sometimes with other ideas.
Okay.
So, and I don't impose myself too much on them. So sometimes I'll say, well, this is getting away from what I thought it should be. But other times I'm usually happy for their contribution. There was a classic case, I think 2 albums ago, or was it the last album, where I sent a demo that I thought was in 3/4.
Okay.
And they came back playing it, starting on beat 2 in 6/8. And having learnt it that way, that they were unable to hear it any other way. So I said, okay, you keep doing what you're doing, I'll do what I'm doing. And I think it will mesh together. So it's got this weird rhythm. There's like two rhythms, and if you kind of, you know, to turn the stereo all the way to the left, you know, you hear it in 6/8. If you turn the stereo all the way to the right, it's in 3/4. It's just bizarre, but it sort of works. You know, it's a real kind of.
What track is that? What track is that?
God, I'm trying to think of the name. What's it called? It's called. I should know the names of my own songs, but I really do. It's called. She was meant for me.
Okay.
Her love was meant for me. That's what it's called. Her love was meant for me. And it might be on the most recent record now. I think it's on 13 Rivers. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'll have to check that out. All right.
But it's in 2 rhythms at the same time. It almost sounds like one of those really complex African things, you know, where you're never quite sure where the one is, you know.
You know, it's interesting.